Hello, I'm Liao. Welcome back. We've been building our file-based client-side routing library with Svelte over the past few videos. And if this is the first video that you are watching, well, you're missing out a lot. I'll link the link of the playlist in the description below so that you just click on it and watch and recap and learn and catch up with all the things that we have talked about so far. Right, just a quick recap what we have done. We've been able to write our file-based routing library. Everything you can think of is already done. So we are at our very last mile over here, which is to add a file watcher to watch the changes in our file system, so that every time when we add a new file or delete a file within the specific routes folder, we will run this script to generate our new routes definition again, so that we don't have to keep saving and run npm run generation to generate a new routes definition. So we're gonna add that feature into our routes generator script so that it just watch changes from behind. So to do that, we'll need some Node API, file system API, to help us with that. Sorry to jump in, but I got an important thing to tell you, which is that if you're following along, coding along with me, the code for all this is on the GitHub repo. Link in the description. Just follow along. If you miss any steps, each changes are in individual commits. So you can just check out that commit and take a look at what you are missing. Now follow along. Okay, so in that case, actually I'm gonna open two node terminal. One running one is gonna run a script so that it starts watching, and of course I have to write that script down. So for that script, it's called the generate routes that we basically have been using to generate the file, right? So this thing, I'm gonna this whole thing over here, the routes from here onwards, is a function that we use to run and generate our new routes definition. So we're gonna wrap this whole thing up, called generate routes definition. Okay, and I'm gonna call this function, wrap all this in a function. I'm gonna call this function at the very bottom, this one. And after calling this, I will start to watch our routes folder in case of any new files. So I'm going to use fs.watch file, watch changes for files, and I can specify, okay, let's see, I'm not really familiar with this API, so let's go to node file fs.watch and see what we get. fs.watch. Okay, so this one is the one that you can watch changes to a file or a directory, right? And second argument is encoding. Then you have a listener's event type telling you whether it's rename, change, or something. So most platforms, rename is emitted whenever a file appears or disappears. Let me zoom this in case you can't read it clearly. Let's watch. So this is watch file. Just watch one specific file, I think. Just now the one we're looking at is the fs.watch API, this one. So it says that most platforms, rename is the one whenever a file appears or disappears in the directory. So it calls and then this is when you add change event. Of course, you have some caveats where this is not 100% consistent across all platforms. We are not going to read this because I'm not in the best position to explain all this to you. But we will start with this API first, and then I'm going to show you a better way of doing this. Right? So the simplest way, of course, is to use this fs.watch, and most likely it just work in most cases, most platforms. Unless you're running this code in maybe some machine that is special some special operating system that maybe it's not work. But here we can fs.watch, and then we're going to pass in our input folder, this one, and the options, we just pass in empty object. Listener, this is the event, and the event type, right? So this event type is equals to change this, then someone has changed the file inside. And actually we don't have to run the route definition if someone modify the file within this folder, because we know that the routes definition that we generated, like this one, does import these files. So basically we don't really care, this whole place, we don't really care about the content of the file. And if you change the file content, because vite built this from this file, so any file that is imported from that is being watched by vite. So if you change the content itself, hot module reloading is being done by the vite, so you don't have to worry about that. The only thing you need to worry is that if you add new files or remove files or rename the files within this folder, then you have to generate routes definition again. And I guess that's whoops, I guess that's it. So if I try to run this script now, note this one, it's been started watching. I can't really know whether I generates anything, so maybe I should add like generating, like this console over here. Let's restart again. So when I run, it's generating, okay. And over here on the other side, I can run npm run dev to start my vite server. Here, I can now, of course, to add new or change the routes. I'm going to add a new route. So before we do that, let's take a look at the file that we see over here. Let's close everything. So here I have a/c. Right, this is the rest routes. It's served by the rest over here, but now I'm gonna quickly create a new file called c.svelte, and as soon as I create that file, let's see, is my file server. My file server does not regenerate again. It's not working. Let's see, why is it not working? Okay, let's come back over here. Let's see whether we even able to receive any events. Okay, so let's see. Let's try and run this again. We can run node, this one. Okay, we generated. And as soon as I create a new file called c.svelte, no events at all. This one, the event callback is not being called at all. So let's figure out what's going on wrong. fs.watch. Options, persistence, indicate whether should run as long as possible. Yes, recursive. Recursive, whether all subdirectories should watch. That should be true. Okay, encoding signal. Okay, so let's delete this file first. Let's restart our watch script. So we generated, and now if I come to here and say c. Let me open this page as well. This is the rest, and it says as I create this c.svelte events rename, we regenerate a new one, and you see that now this page immediately hot reloads to an empty page, and I type something and save here. You see it's updated, because as soon as we make some changes, we have like a new file rename. We are regenerating, and then we basically writes into this file, right? And as soon as this file is being updated, hot reloading kicks in, and vite will because vite is watching this file, vite will watch and make changes, and the whole thing will get updated. The only thing that I noticed is that if I try to even change some content over here, it is changed, right? It's not renamed. How comes just now when it looks like it's okay? So Right, go and create a new file, svelte. Then this is a rename event. Type something, save. This is a rename event, which is kind of weird. So I believe that is what all the caveats about on certain operating system may have certain behaviors and stuff. Okay. Which I'm really not in a position to explain all this. But there is a better library for watching file in general that most libraries uses, and some libraries will use it and wrap it and expose it as a method. Well, the some library I'm referring to is actually vite. Vite provides a watch API for us to a watcher for us to watch file changes, and we're gonna use that instead of using the file system watch API, which is slightly inferior. I'm not really sure. I just feel that it's better. So okay, I can't really explain why, but I just feel so. But you can correct me if I'm wrong about this one. So let's take a look at the vite API. If you look at this vite configure server over here, vite server, there's this watcher which is a fs watcher, which is basically a Chokidar watcher instance. And when I search for this one, this library, I believe it does explain what this library tries to do. How does it tries to be minimal and efficient? It's a cross-platform file watching library. Why, and it does tells you like why this you should use this over fs.watch. And I guess one of this is that it means most changes have rename. That's why just now, even if we just make changes to the file, it says rename. And this Chokidar library apparently should help us to handle this better, normalize it to have different kind of events. So we're gonna use this thing instead. So you use it, you see that I'm actually looking at the vite dev server, and before that I'm looking at configure server. So I'm not sure whether you see the theme over here. Basically my idea is to package this whole generate route script into a vite plugin, and we use this vite plugin directly in our vite server. So when it starts up, it starts this plugin, and this plugin will watch the folders and generate a routes definition, and all these things will go smoothly, and you just need one command, npm run dev, that starts your vite, starts vite dev server, starts watching, and starts everything, right? So that's my goal over here. So I'm gonna expose this as a function that we can import it later on. So this one, I'm gonna export this as a function, generate routes definition. And over here, I'm gonna write my own vite config. So vite config is a vite plugin. Sorry, vite plugin is just an object. Of course, you can write your plugin name. So this is gonna be our routes generator plugin. And then we need to have our hooks. So the hook that we are gonna have is the configure server. This will give us the server, the vite dev server. I'm gonna call it vite. And this vite dev server has this property called watcher. So vite.watcher. And this vite.watcher is, let's see, is this one, and this has API for us to do watching. So in the meantime, I need to import this generate routes definition. I feel like I don't want to export this whole function. Instead, I want to maybe export a function that you can pass in the init watcher. You can pass in the watcher itself, right? Why? Because later on, if I do watcher, I need to, well, I can have the whole plugin in there, but I want to import like that right now because I already written the plugin over here. Lib source lib routing. So I want to import something, and I I don't want to export this input folder out, and so I just pass this whole watcher in so that you can call watcher dots whatever to start watching, right? So here is init watcher. This file, this one. And here we take in a watcher, we can start watch the input folder. And this returns us a watcher. Okay, so this, okay, I guess we can just do this and then on something, on add and unlink. Add, so I listen to multiple events. Is there a way that we can listen to multiple events? I guess we can only listen one by one. So the first one is the, so we have all these different events, and I feel the one that we need is when we add a new file or we remove the file. So it's add, and of course later on we have the unlink to remove the file, because here we have to pass in the callback. So this callback is for us to call generate routes definition. Same goes over here. And I guess the first thing we also need to do is to also generate this once as we start. So I guess this is how we're gonna write. And pass this in init watcher. We're gonna pass in the init watcher, pass in the vite.watcher. I guess this, and then this will be our plugin that watches the file changes and rebuilds. Let's kill this. Let's kill everything. I guess I don't need this second terminal anymore. I just need this one. npm run dev. Something is wrong. Let's see. Okay, I can't import the. Oh, I'm not supposed to import the route library. Should import the script generate routes. So it should be script generate routes. Save this. It's clear. Start again. Oh, I need to pass in the JS because it's a module. Watcher.watch is not a function. So let's take a look at what is the watcher. Oh, okay. I think it's an instance. Just now we were calling watch to create an instance of fs watcher, but this is already a fs watcher instance. So what we need to do is call add to add files to watch, right? Is it? Let's see what else we can call. Any APIs? Let's see. Add new files. On watch. Okay, I just want to make sure that the. Actually, you know what? I feel like maybe we don't have to specify watch what, because probably Vite has already watching them. So I'm gonna call events like this and console log add, and here I'm gonna say remove unlink. So maybe it's already set watch, right? Maybe it's already watched. So let's see. Let's try. Let's create another file called e.svelte. It is. It calls add and then it does run this. So So here actually we need to know what files is being added. So this is the path that we were given. So we're gonna print that out. Let's start again. So if I try to remove a file like the e.svelte, then the unlink is called, and then this whole path is being passed to me. So what I need to do is to make sure that if this is within this source dollar folder, then we have to generate our routes definition again. So for that, this is to check whether this is the input folder, right? So if path starts with input folder, then we run this, right? And I think this is the same thing as well, so I might as well come over here and say on change path, this one. I'm gonna pass this on change over here, on change over here, right? And I guess let's restart, run dev. Okay, so if I rename this to E, then if you look at our generated TypeScript file, let's format a bit, -e, you can see that this is already updated over here in this file. If I change this to D, immediately, let me close this. Immediately, if you can find A-D is already updated. So we have our vites to help us to watch and then rerun this generate routes function for us. So if you look at the screen, if I'm at C, if I delete this, immediately I fall back to the rest. If I create this file, then immediately this is the one that is on the screen. So wow, that's amazing. Let's just next level, right? So now basically we have our component routing library as part of a vite plugin that it sets this up and it watches the file for you. Then to make this complete, we also have to make sure that hold on, this one, the vites, the build, we also have to make sure that this plugin also will run on build start to actually generate routes as well. Here we export so that something like this, so that it's not just for dev server, we just keep watching and generating. When we actually want to kill this application and want to start building, we have to make sure that we also generates the routes definition first, because else there will be no entry file for vite plugin, right? So I guess that's it for this whole series. We have gone through everything. We've started with client-side routing library, we've done our file-based routing, we analyzed file folder structures and stuff, and we ended up with a high note, hopefully this is high enough, with our own vite plugin where it watches the file changes and generates the routes definition for us, so that we don't even have to manually run the scripts to generate the route definition. And that is your own client-side routing library with Svelte. Hopefully with this video, this whole series of videos, you realize that this is not that hard, right? And if one day, if situation arises where you have to write your own routing libraries, or there's a better frameworks out there and you want to write a routing library for that frameworks, you know how to do, right? All these skills are transferable. Not a lot of them are related or specific to Svelte. Mostly we borrow svelte kits API so that we don't have to figure out our own API design, but the implementation, the stuff itself, the mechanics itself is transferable to any frameworks. So I hope that this gives you a good perspective of how you can write a routing library. So if you like this kind of videos, this kind of topics, this kind of deep dive live coding style series in the future, or if you want to see any topics in mind, just leave your ideas in the comment section below, and I'll definitely read through all of them, but I will try my best to create that kind of content for you. So remember to subscribe to my channel so that you get notified when the next video is out. So see ya, bye bye.